I'm Ava Jensen, a 28-year-old financial analyst. The Thanksgiving turkey was barely touched when my father pulled out a check. Not for me, the one with solvency. He passed the envelope to my sister, Chelsea, a $20,000 asset for her house payment. My mother, Susan, raised her glass, cheers to our little homeowner. Everyone cheered. I just forced a smile, letting their rejection sink in. They thought I was just the quiet, renting daughter. They didn't know the truth about my quiet, self-built legacy. I kept silent that day, but the question is, why did I choose control and self-determination over a very loud, very satisfying act of revenge? I was always the secondary character in the Jensen family dynamics. Chelsea was the baby girl, the dramatic one whose constant financial complexity guaranteed parental approval. I was the responsible one, never praised, always expected. That relentless rejection was the first seed of my self-determination. I realized that my power came not from their entitlement, but from my own skill and precision. If I wanted a legacy, I had to build it in silence, free from their toxic pretense. They thought my silence was weakness. They mistook my solvency for simple thriftiness. But what they couldn't see was the enormous, financial asset I was sitting on, ready to deploy. And the most dangerous part? I had already decided that my greatest vindication wouldn't be public. I was already a homeowner, but why did I choose to protect my secret even under the sting of their public mockery? 2 years ago, I deployed my strategy. I bought a duplex, not a starter home, but an asset generating real solvency. The rental income covers the mortgage, turning my home into a self-sustaining legacy. This entire project was a clinical act of precision, a testament to my financial analyst skill. While Chelsea chases easy approval and quick fixes, I chase yield, leverage, and power built on structure, not on a $20,000 check. I kept it all secret. My success was too vulnerable to be exposed to the destructive energy of their envy and their toxic family dynamics. My self-determination means my peace is non-negotiable, and silence is the ultimate shield against betrayal. They thought they humiliated the poor renter daughter. They didn't know they were mocking a landlord who calculated their entire financial downfall. But the real question is, when my mother cornered me after the Thanksgiving toast and threw out a public, cutting insult, did I finally break and expose my secret legacy? My mother, Susan, waited until the laughter died down, then turned her full attention to me. "Oh, Ava, honey. You're still in that little rented apartment, aren't you? We know the financial analyst skill takes time to build an asset. Every eye was on me." It was a public rejection dressed as motherly concern, a classic toxic family dynamic. My blood boiled. They were mocking my self-determination, comparing my solvency to Chelsea's $20,000 handout. The secret duplex, the rental income, the precision of my planning, it all flashed through my mind. This was the perfect moment for a mic drop vindication. But I chose silence. Why? What dark complexity made me swallow that pain and protect my family's ignorance of my quiet legacy? I met my mother's gaze and gave her a slight, polite nod. That single action, choosing dignity over drama, was my first act of self-determination that day. I wouldn't let their toxic dynamics steal my peace. I watched Chelsea beam as everyone toasted her big step into adulthood, her smile built entirely on my parents' entitlement. The irony was a physical pain. Her $20,000 asset was a gift. My entire legacy came from blood, sweat, and precision. Under the table, I subtly checked my email. A quick glance confirmed my tenant's rent had cleared, directly hitting my bank account. They were mocking the renter, while I was the quiet, invisible engine of my own financial solvency. That rent confirmation was my true vindication, a moment of quiet power they would never know. But the dinner was far from over. My mother was about to press harder, challenging my life choices, forcing me to decide, do I maintain the silence that protects my peace, or do I finally drop the truth bomb and ignite the biggest family conflict we've ever seen? You know, Ava, if you just asked for some help, like Chelsea, we could get you out of that awful place. Why is it so hard for you to accept our approval and support? I'm fine, Mom. My financial analyst precision handles my solvency. Every fiber in my body screamed to reveal the duplex, the tenants, the rent hitting my account. But years of building my legacy in silence won. Disclosing the truth would invite their toxic dynamics and jeopardize my peace. I kept the secret safe, guarding my self-determination like the most valuable asset I owned. I knew the Blakes, the entitlement generation, would eventually fail without real skill. But how quickly would Chelsea's $20,000 vanish, and what desperate situation would it take for my parents to finally acknowledge my quiet, undeniable power? I looked at them. My parents, so proud of their easy approval and Chelsea's instant asset. They were actors on a stage built of pretense and conditional love. And I, the analyst, was finally seeing the low return on investment of seeking their vindication. I understood the fundamental complexity of their dynamics. They needed a baby girl to save and a responsible one to mock, to feel their own power. My silence wasn't rejection, it was an act of accepting their limitations and protecting my self-determination. The urge to shout, "I own a duplex," vanished, replaced by the deep, quiet satisfaction of my financial solvency. My legacy was real, built with precision and skill. Their applause meant nothing when compared to the peace of true, self-earned liberation. The show was over for me. I had secured my peace, but I was still sitting at the table, observing the toxic family dynamics I had escaped. Now that I had achieved true financial solvency and emotional liberation, what was the real game changer? How did my quiet, strategic skill turn into the very thing my parents would soon desperately need, proving my power without me ever saying a word about the duplex? After Thanksgiving, I channeled all the energy from their public rejection into my real assets. My determination intensified. I wasn't seeking revenge, I was investing in my own liberation, using my financial analyst skill with clinical precision. I used the cash flow from my duplex to secure another small investment unit, a second asset, managed entirely remotely. This is my inheritance. My kind of family legacy built on genuine solvency, not parental entitlement. Managing this portfolio demanded dealing with real-world complexity, something Chelsea and my parents, blinded by pretense, would never understand. Every successful transaction was a private vindication, proving my power without demanding their trivial approval. My self-built power was growing, solidifying my ultimate self-determination. But while I was stacking financial assets, Chelsea was rapidly burning through her $20,000 handout. How quickly would her lack of skill and precision lead to a crisis, and what role would I, the silent financial solvency expert, be forced to play in the inevitable family collapse? Months later, I saw the first cracks. Chelsea was posting endless photos of luxury weekends and expensive renovations, all designed to maintain the appearance of entitlement and success. Her $20,000 asset was funding a life of pure pretense. Meanwhile, my father, Mark, started sending me subtle emails. "Have you heard from Chelsea lately? She missed the family dinner." I knew the real complexity. The $20,000 was gone, and her fragile solvency was failing without my parents' constant approval. I scrolled past her pictures, expressionless. My financial analyst skill had predicted this dynamic with chilling precision. My self-determination allowed me to observe, not intervene. I had achieved my peace, the natural consequences were her problem. The stage was set for the Blakes to finally reap what they sowed, a spectacular financial collapse. But the real betrayal was still to come, as their growing panic would force them to turn to the one person they had publicly mocked. In their deepest moment of need, would they swallow their pride and seek the power and skill of the renter daughter for their own financial survival? They only saw my current success, never the cost. I skipped parties to work an extra shift. My first asset wasn't money, it was the habit of precision. I canceled that expensive trip and instead put the money into my first mutual fund. It felt like rejection at the time, but it was my first act of financial self-determination. My true power came from understanding complexity. While they focused on family dynamics and pretense, I was mastering cash flow, leverage, and risk assessment. The feeling of signing those papers was my ultimate vindication. It was about the deep peace of knowing my financial structure was unbreakable. I watched friends with entitlement fall. I learned that inherited wealth can be a curse. My quiet determination was my shield against the easy path. The greatest asset I earned wasn't the duplex. It was the insight that my integrity and ability to delay gratification gave me unlimited power. I had built my legacy with precision and integrity, while Chelsea's was built on a single check. As her illusion of stability began to shatter, the complexity of their desperate situation forced them to realize the true source of power. What was the exact moment, the precise financial betrayal, that made my parents finally swallow their pride and call the renter daughter for help? The foundation of my solvency wasn't inherited entitlement, it was the summer job at the bookstore. Every paycheck was split, 50% for college, 50% for a future asset fund. My first lesson in precision. Money in, money out. Predictable complexity requires careful precision. Chelsea, meanwhile, spent her entire allowance on one luxury handbag, with parental approval. They went on a cruise. I stayed behind, working. "Don't you want to join us, Ava?" Always so determined to be alone. I was building a stronger legacy. Sacrifice was my secret weapon against their conditional dynamics. I saw the down payment for the duplex, $35,000, not a betrayal of my funds, but the fulfillment of years of self-determination. That money was my quiet vindication, earned without a single request for their approval. I learned that true power isn't handed down like Chelsea's $20,000 check, it's grown from the roots of genuine determination and financial integrity. Their pretense could buy a facade, but my skill could buy freedom and peace. My life wasn't about avoiding pain, it was about accepting it as tuition. Every rejection was a reminder, the best investments are the ones you manage yourself, with no reliance on external entitlement. I had seen enough numbers to know that Chelsea's impulsive spending and lack of precision would inevitably lead to a financial collapse. I built a stable future, she built a high-interest time bomb. That quiet strength was the ultimate legacy I gifted myself. This quiet power was the only thing that mattered now, not the family dynamics at the dinner table. I closed the imaginary budget book. The flashback was over. I returned to the present, watching the unfolding crisis with the cold, analytical precision of an expert observing a predicted market correction. The stage of financial collapse was set for Chelsea and my parents. They had bet their financial solvency on entitlement, while I bet on skill. The question wasn't if they would fail, but how spectacularly they would fall, and what complicated, desperate request they would make of the daughter they mocked to save their sinking financial ship. They were about to learn the true cost of their rejection. The slow reversal began. My father, Mark, sent an email about refinancing his mortgage. Then came my mother, Susan. "Ava, darling, is crypto still a good investment?" The sheer pretense of their sudden approval was almost amusing. I helped lightly, offering general advice, but never revealing the complexity of my duplex empire. My determination was to assist their query, not expose my quiet legacy. Their ignorance was still my greatest piece and strategic power. The family dynamics had shifted. Their previous rejection and entitlement were replaced by subtle, grudging reliance on my skill. This slow acknowledgement of my self-determination was a far sweeter vindication than any public argument. They were moving toward the realization that the power they valued, money, was managed by the daughter they ignored. Their betrayal of me had resulted in their dependence on me. The two parallel paths were finally converging. I watched the situation with cold precision. I knew they were panicking. I was the only reliable source of solvency they had left. The phone call I was waiting for finally came, not a casual question, but a desperate plea. The real question wasn't about refinancing or crypto, it was about saving Chelsea from a complete financial collapse. Would I choose to protect my hard-won peace and watch their illusion of entitlement crumble, or would I become the family savior? Using my quiet power for the ultimate, unspoken act of revenge? It finally happened. Chelsea initiated a video call. The veneer of entitlement was gone. She was desperate, completely broken by the financial complexity of her situation. "Ava, please. I need $40,000, just a loan. You're the financial analyst, you have the solvency." I calculated the risk instantly. My self-determination was non-negotiable. "Chelsea, I am not in a position to lend you that amount. My skill tells me you need structured debt counseling, not a bailout. Another loan only postpones your inevitable collapse." 10 minutes later, my mother, Susan, called. Her voice was sharp, laced with the old, familiar approval for Chelsea and the implied rejection of me. "Ava, your sister is distraught. You owe us this after we supported your education with such precision." "Mom, my solvency is earned through disciplined investment, not entitlement. I offer advice, not a bailout." The line went dead. The usual toxic family dynamics had met the immovable wall of my financial determination. The betrayal of their past favoritism was finally repaid with my refusal to save them. The silence was deafening, but it wasn't the silence of rejection. It was the profound peace of liberation. I had chosen my self-built asset over their conditional love. My quiet vindication was complete. As an analyst, I saw a market correction. My revenge wasn't the spectacular, loud reveal. It was the quiet strength to say no, securing my peace and my self-built legacy against their financial storm. I closed my laptop. My work was done. A single tear rolled down my cheek, not of pain, but of release. The emotional debt I felt toward them was finally paid. I was free of their conditional dynamics. Free to enjoy the peace of my own self-determination. My self-determination was absolute. My legacy was secure, and their cycle of entitlement was finally broken. I had won the quiet war. But the story doesn't end with a phone call. How did the family react to my final rejection, and what was the lasting effect on our twisted family dynamics after their great financial collapse? The next chapter is about the silence that follows the storm. A few days later, my phone rang. Not Susan, not Chelsea. It was Dad. The man of entitlement and public rejection was finally calling for the help only my skill and precision could offer. "Ava. Look. Your mother and I, we are in a serious financial complexity. We need advice. Professional advice." The man who had mocked my renter status was now asking for the precision of my financial analyst skill to save his retirement asset. The irony was sharp enough to cut the tension. "Dad, I can offer a consultation. But this is a business matter. Are you prepared to accept my advice, without emotional dynamics or attempts at manipulation? I need self-determination, yes. We need you, Ava. Your solvency, your mind. We made a mistake not trusting your legacy of hard work." It was the closest to an approval or vindication I had ever received. The time for silence was over. "Before we begin, Dad. I need to clarify something about my awful place. I don't rent, Dad. I own a duplex with 2 separate units. My asset generates my living solvency." The line went silent again. His assumptions, his entitlement, all shattered by my calm, factual statement. "So, if you want my skill to save your family's financial future, you will pay my consultation fee, which will be a single, non-negotiable term, absolute, public acknowledgement. I wasn't asking for money. I was asking for the one thing they could never give freely, vindication of my worth and my self-built legacy." This was the real act of revenge, a forced truth. "Ava. I'm so sorry. Now, do you accept my terms?" "Yes. I accept." The battle for my self-determination was won. The family dynamics were permanently redefined. I had achieved the ultimate peace through quiet power. My father had finally accepted my terms, setting the stage for my public vindication, the true climax of this family revenge story. But how did he plan to deliver the public acknowledgement he promised? And what devastating financial reality did my expert precision reveal about Chelsea's vanished $20,000 asset? The next chapter is the final reckoning, where my quiet power changes the Blake legacy forever. We met at a quiet downtown cafe, Ava, I have to be honest. We always saw Chelsea as the fragile one who needed our approval and our entitlement. And we punished your self-determination. His confession didn't feel like a complete vindication, but a final, bitter acknowledgement of the toxic family dynamics. I began sorting the papers. The data showed a clear pattern of bailouts. Chelsea's $20,000 asset didn't vanish, it was spent, not invested. It was a sustained drain on my parents' hard-earned solvency. Dad, this isn't just about Chelsea's collapse. Your own solvency is now at serious risk because of this betrayal of your budget. We thought we were buying her happiness. We didn't want the rejection from her that we always expected from you. I hardened my resolve, I understand, Dad. But emotion has led to a major financial collapse. My consultation fee remains the public acknowledgement of my self-determination. Furthermore, I require a non-negotiable term, 0 future bailouts for Chelsea. Agreed. What do we do? He finally ceded all power to me, the daughter they overlooked. First, we halt all discretionary spending. Third, we need to restructure your main asset, the house. I was no longer the secondary character. Their complexity was now managed by my precision. Dad, you understand the public acknowledgement is non-negotiable. You must tell the family, publicly, at the next gathering, about the duplex and your reliance on my skill, yes. I accept. The public acknowledgement was secured, and the final scene of this revenge story was set for the next family gathering. But what unforeseen financial complexity about their family home did my precision reveal? And how did I leverage that final piece of information for the ultimate, public vindication that would crush my mother's last stand of pretense? I spent 2 days immersed in their numbers. Then I saw it. A secondary lien on the family home, their main asset. It wasn't for Chelsea, it was a high-interest cash-out refinancing done 5 years ago, masked by financial pretense. It wasn't Chelsea's collapse that doomed them. It was a prior act of financial betrayal against their own future solvency. This lien was the true threat. Their ultimate power, their home, was secretly vulnerable. I now held their family home in my hands. I had absolute power over the man who had denied me his approval. My self-determination was absolute. I crafted a strategic plan with surgical precision. They would be dependent on my solvency and expertise for years. Dad, I found a major issue. Saving it requires accepting my terms, including the public vindication clause, in full. The house? How bad is it? It was meant to be our little pretense of financial power. Your pretense nearly cost you everything. Accept the terms, or lose the legacy, yes. Yes, Ava. Anything you say. Just save the house. Good. We will announce the plan at the upcoming family dinner. You will deliver the acknowledgement as the first step. This was about seizing back my self-determination. My revenge was quiet, professional, and devastatingly effective. The duplex, my small, stable asset, held the power to save their legacy. The stage was now set for the ultimate family dinner. I had the power to save them, but only on my terms, a public acknowledgement of my skill and the true state of their legacy. How would my mother, Susan, react when her husband, the patriarch of entitlement, was forced to publicly confess their betrayal of their own financial solvency and reveal my quiet, undeniable vindication? The family dinner was my non-negotiable term. I took charge of the invitation, a move of subtle but absolute power. The family dynamics were shifting, and I was the unseen conductor of their impending reckoning. I stared at the blank screen, calculating every word. This wasn't a social note, it was a legally binding document of my vindication. The subject line needed the cold, analytical precision of my financial analyst skill. It subtly implied that their asset was now being managed under my professional skill. I began the email, carefully crafting the illusion of parental approval. Dear family, Mark and Susan are excited to announce they're entering a phase of proactive solvency management. I integrated the first term of my vindication deep into the body. This involves seeking expert consultation on their asset portfolio, utilizing the skill and precision of our own financial analyst, Ava. I made sure the invitation was extensive. Aunt Carol, who always sneered. Uncle Joe, who always compared my rented status to Chelsea's homeowner entitlement. The wider the audience, the greater the legacy moment. I imagined Chelsea reading it, the shock, the pain, the sudden realization that the sister she mocked was now in charge of their entire family's financial solvency and the avoidance of her home collapse. The duplex, my quiet little asset built on self-determination, was now the sword I would use to expose their giant, unstable pretense of entitlement and poor financial precision. The contrast was my final piece of power. I forwarded the draft to Dad. His reply was immediate, looks professional, Ava. I'm sorry this is necessary. The fact that he was apologizing confirmed his full acknowledgement of the necessity of my revenge. Mom, still lost in the fog of entitlement, texted, "Can you ask Mark to get the nice wine? Don't make it too much of a business thing." Her lack of precision made her an easy target for the final vindication. I hit the send button. The email was out. The countdown to the ultimate climax had begun. I had used precision to transform a tool of communication into a weapon of self-determination and legacy. I reread the email, confirming every subtle insertion of my terms. The complexity of their financial ruin was hidden beneath the pretense of an official acknowledgement of my professional skill. The coming dinner would not be a confrontation, it would be a presentation. A public disclosure of the new family dynamics, where my power was earned, not inherited. My peace was finally at hand. The rejection at the holiday dinner, the mock check, the denial of my duple asset, all of it led to this email. The circle of betrayal and vindication was complete. Now, the final show. I felt no triumph, only a cold sense of professional satisfaction. This wasn't about revenge fueled by pain, it was about the restoration of my value and solvency through unwavering determination. I reviewed the guest list one last time. Every person who needed to hear the confession and witness my legacy was included. The public nature of the acknowledgement was key to my final piece. Now I had to prepare my presentation slides. The data on the hidden lien, the details of Chelsea's collapse, the projections for their new, humble solvency. Every detail demanded precision. The weight of this new power was heavy, but it was a burden I earned. It was the antithesis of their inherited entitlement. I was saving them, yes, but only after they recognized my true skill and self-determination. I checked the wording again, Ava's expert skill, to secure the family legacy and ensure future solvency. Every keyword was a testament to my ultimate vindication and their forced approval. I closed the laptop, feeling the profound peace that comes from a plan perfectly executed. The hard part, the emotional complexity, was over. Now came the final, satisfying professional demonstration of power. I looked in the mirror. Not the girl who was dismissed, but the woman who commanded the respect of a financially ruined family. The rejection was fuel, the precision was the weapon, the legacy was the prize. My last task was to ensure my father understood the script. He was the presenter, but I was the director. His acknowledgement had to be perfect for my vindication to be complete and final. The atmosphere was thick. Mom, still clinging to pretense, had set the table with her finest china. Chelsea looked anxious. Aunt Carol was clearly ready to discuss Chelsea's unfortunate financial collapse. Dad cleared his throat, his face grim. This was the moment of public acknowledgement I demanded. Thank you all for coming. We need to discuss the family's financial legacy. This requires my daughter Ava's skill. Mom quickly cut in, trying to regain control of the dynamics. Mark, darling, Ava is just helping with the software. Don't make it sound so serious. Her last attempt at rejection of my solvency, Susan, Ava is the lead analyst. She has been managing her own substantial asset portfolio with precision and self-determination since she graduated. We are relying on her expert skill. The table went silent. Aunt Carol's jaw dropped. They realized too late that the person they mocked for her lack of entitlement was the only one with the power and solvency to save their family complexity. The truth was finally revealed, and the shock around the table was absolute. But this was only the first step of my vindication. Next, my father had to publicly explain the family's true financial collapse, and I had to reveal my secret asset, the duplex, to shatter their entire worldview of entitlement once and for all. What would my mother do when her carefully constructed world of pretense came tumbling down? The silence was my cue. My presentation slides appeared on the living room screen, a brutal visualization of their financial complexity. As Dad mentioned, we are addressing serious risks, the high-interest second lien on the main asset, the house. This loan predates Chelsea's issues. Mom gasped. The secret financial betrayal she had protected with her outward pretense was now public. This lien, coupled with the need to cover frequent unsecured loans to Chelsea, means your inherited entitlement is unsustainable. Non-negotiable Term 1, 0 future bailouts for Chelsea. Her financial dynamics must now be governed by natural consequences. You can't do this. You're trying to punish me. You have no power to dictate my life. Mark put his hand on Chelsea's shoulder. Chelsea, Ava is right, we lose the house. All his power was officially relinquished to me. To manage the debt, we must refinance the house under a specific trust structure, with me, the analyst, as the named executor of the financial precision. I had built a legal barrier to protect their legacy from their own poor determination and their daughter's entitlement. Aunt Carol, a perpetual critic, spoke up. Mark, you're giving Ava complete power over your house? Why didn't you just ask her for a loan? This was the final, sweetest validation. They scoffed at my solvency. Now their entire future rested on my skill and my self-determination. Vindication achieved. Mom stood up, her eyes blazing. I won't let my own daughter control my home. This is your petty revenge. Mom, if I wanted revenge, I would have let the second lien foreclose. This is peace. Now, sit down, or the consultation is over. Mom slowly sank back into her chair, defeated. My professional power was total. The final battle was won. My mother's public defiance was crushed by my calm precision. And my power over the family legacy was complete. But how did this ultimate vindication impact Chelsea in the long term, and what final, cold truth did I deliver to my family that cemented my ultimate self-determination and final peace in this story of quiet revenge? I closed the door of my duplex, and a profound peace enveloped me. The air was light, the toxic dynamics of their house were a million miles away. This small, stable asset was my sanctuary. Was it revenge? Yes, but not the type fueled by pain. It was revenge against the rejection that sought to diminish my worth. It was the calculated restoration of my self-determination using superior precision. My parents, trapped in the cycle of inherited entitlement, mistook my financial skill for a phase. They saw only pretense in the outside world, yet their own legacy was built on the shakiest of foundations. Their financial complexity nearly led to a collapse. Mine, built brick by brick, ensured my solvency and, ultimately, theirs. My true value wasn't in their approval, it was in my ability to execute. The public acknowledgement Dad gave was the payment for my vindication. It wasn't the trust document or the management fees, it was forcing them to publicly recognize the daughter they marginalized. I thought of Chelsea's pain. She was the mirror of our parents' failures. I didn't hate her. I felt a cold pity that her own determination was crushed by a lifetime of conditional approval. Mom's final burst of rejection was her last attempt to hold on to the old dynamics. Her defeat was total because the power I held, financial reality, was something she could neither manipulate nor dismiss. My ultimate power was ensuring their future legacy. I didn't burn their house down, I protected it on my terms. That act of surgical, controlled precision was the opposite of their chaotic, emotional betrayal. I was no longer defined by their approval or rejection. I was defined by my balance sheet, my duplex, and my skill. My self-determination was absolute, built on tangible assets, not inherited pretense. The years of simmering pain were finally gone, replaced by the cool certainty of an accountant. The chapter of family complexity was closed, sealed by the trust document and the public acknowledgement. I looked out at the city lights. My peace wasn't a temporary truce, it was a permanent state of being, secured by my own hard work. This was the true reward of my quiet revenge. I won not by sinking them, but by forcing them to float using my rules and my skill. That level of control was the ultimate vindication, a lifelong achievement of self-determination over entitlement. I ran my hand along the wall of my duplex. My home was truly mine, an asset built on logic and precision. It was the antithesis of the debt-laden family house built on fragile, generational pretense. The family dynamics would never revert. They were forever repositioned, with me, the former outsider, as the foundational pillar of their financial solvency and the keeper of their legacy. The sun rose on a new reality. There was one last piece of paperwork. I reviewed the trust documents one last time. My involvement was now minimized to advisory status. I wrote a short, professional email. The message was clear: my time as the savior was over. I explicitly stated that any future requests for financial assistance would be directed solely to the fiduciary. My email address was no longer a lifeline for their entitlement. I glanced at the drawer where I had kept the mock check from years ago, the symbol of their rejection of my small asset. It was now worthless. I took the check out, held it over my shredder, and watched the paper disappear. It wasn't about revenge, it was an act of personal liberation. The final shedding of the pain they inflicted. A text from Dad popped up: "Ava, thank you. I see it now. I see your true skill." A small, private acknowledgement of my vindication that mattered more than the public one. Mom remained silent. Her pretense was broken, but her pride was too strong for a direct apology. Her silence was a heavy, forced acknowledgement of her defeat and my absolute power. The true reward wasn't their forced approval. It was the peace of knowing my future and my solvency were entirely within my control. The family dynamics were fundamentally reset. They were the clients, and I was the successful former consultant. Our relationship was defined by legal documents, not emotional betrayal or conditional love. Chelsea's path would be harder now. But I gave her the gift of necessity. I closed the trust file on my computer and organized my office. My precision had brought me closure. The story wasn't about the money or the house. It was about a daughter who was rejected for her lack of entitlement, proving that her inherent skill and determination were the only true family legacy. I had chosen peace, and it was the most valuable asset I owned. The circle was complete. The quiet revenge was executed with surgical precision, resulting not in chaos, but in absolute peace and financial solvency for all parties, on my terms. But as the chapter closes on the Blake family's broken dynamics, what valuable lesson about self-determination and the true meaning of legacy can you, the viewer, take away from this story of ultimate vindication? Months of hard-won peace had settled over my life. Then, the doorbell rang. I opened the door. It was Chelsea. She looked different. Ava. I know you put my name on the no bailout clause, needed to see how you did it. How you built this asset. Her voice lacked the sharp rejection and entitlement of the past. Come in, Chelsea. But understand, this isn't a consultation. She looked around the duplex. My private, tangible asset. You always told Mom you were good with money. We just thought you were exaggerating. We didn't believe your skill was real. I'm sorry for the rejection. This was the real win. My quiet revenge gave her a chance at true self-determination, a gift wrapped in the pain of consequence. The second lien. Why did she let us all believe her pretense? Mom needed a villain, Chelsea. You were easier than admitting their own financial complexity and betrayal. Now, what are you doing for your solvency? That's the only question that matters now. I got a second job. I'm focusing on precision now, not quick fixes. That's all I ever wanted, Chelsea. Not your approval of me, but your determination to approve of yourself. I realized my victory wasn't just my vindication. It was breaking the generational curse. Good luck, Chelsea. Otherwise, I'm focused on my own asset portfolio. The final boundary was drawn with professional precision. This was the only revenge worth having, watching the person who hated you the most finally see your value and understand their own self-worth. The family house, their legacy, was safe, managed by the trust. The lesson wasn't about the power of money, but the power of precision and self-determination. I watched Chelsea walk away, not with sadness, but a feeling of profound closure. My duplex stood solid, a monument to my self-determination. Chelsea's visit proved that the toxic dynamics were permanently broken. My family finally understood that my worth was inherent, not dependent on their entitlement or rejection. The door closed on the old dynamics, but the true ending wasn't just about my peace. It was about the future. The family legacy was secured, Chelsea had found her determination, and my vindication was final. But as you reflect on this journey of quiet revenge, what new asset, be it skill or self-determination, will you decide to build today to ensure your own absolute solvency and future peace? The invitation to coffee was a formal, diplomatic note. I drove to their house. The difference was immediate. The air lacked the frantic pretense of their old life. Mom met me at the door. Ava. We appreciate you taking the time. The trust documents are very thorough. Dad, looking older, poured the coffee. We owe you a real acknowledgement. We treated your duplex as a cute little hobby. We were arrogant, driven by a false sense of entitlement. I am sorry for the rejection. Mom fidgeted with her cup. The second lien. It was a betrayal of our family's solvency. I apologize, Ava, for the complexity I created. This was the final payment. Their confession was my ultimate vindication. Your precision saved us, Ava. Your skill is truly professional. You gave us peace. The legacy is safe, Dad. My role is now defined by the trust's professional dynamics. We always wanted you to inherit something, Ava. Your little duplex is a bigger symbol of power than this house. Their final gift was the truth, recognizing my self-determination as superior to their inherited entitlement. Chelsea visited you. You even saved her from her own lack of determination. I gave her the chance to build her own solvency. For me, this is closure. No more secrets. No more revenge. We're selling the sports car, Ava. We're living by your budget's precision. Their house was physically saved, but their old legacy was dead. Mark stood up and offered his hand. Thank you, professional. Thank you, daughter. Mom nodded, unable to meet my eyes fully. My revenge was complete, and I was finally free. The story of my vindication was over. I traded family complexity for professional peace. The price was their pride. The final acknowledgement was given, the apologies were sincere, and the family legacy was reset. The cost was high, but the reward, my absolute self-determination and untouchable peace, was priceless. This is where my story of quiet revenge ends. But what steps are you willing to take to ensure your own financial solvency and secure your true asset against the entitlement and complexity of the outside world? My new life was defined by routine and precision. No urgent calls, no emotional demands. Just the quiet hum of the city and the satisfying click of my keyboard. This peace was my greatest asset. I sipped my coffee, looking at the skyline from my duplex, a home I fully owned, debt-free. It was a tangible monument to my self-determination, a stark contrast to their old house built on pretense. The silence from the family was the sound of freedom. The toxic dynamics had been neutralized. They knew they could no longer rely on emotional betrayal or inherited entitlement to get my attention. I checked the quarterly trust report. The family legacy was stabilizing, the house asset was secure. My work was effective. I had converted their financial complexity into managed order. My revenge was unique. It wasn't fueled by a desire for their pain, but a desire for my own vindication. The goal was not to destroy their solvency, but to force them to acknowledge mine. I saw a social media photo of Mom wearing a less extravagant dress, serving food at a local shelter. A small, humbling change. The loss of her power had perhaps given her perspective. I saw a LinkedIn update: Chelsea secured a management trainee position. She was building her own determination. That quiet success was the most profound acknowledgement of all. I had given them the gift of necessity, the opportunity to find self-determination outside the gilded cage of their own entitlement. That was the true, cold piece of my final act. The lesson for me was complete: never rely on anyone's approval or conditional love. Your skill, your precision, and your demonstrable asset portfolio are your only true protectors. I closed my laptop. My work life and personal life were finally in balance. The quiet joy was in the certainty that no family complexity could ever derail my solvency again. A weekly report email came from Dad about a small repair on the house. He signed it, Mark Blake, trust client. The new, healthy dynamics were officially permanent. My power was in my choice to engage or walk away. I chose a measured distance. I saved their legacy without losing my soul to the drama of their rejection and betrayal. They taught me that entitlement is the biggest risk factor. I built a life resistant to that risk, founded on hard work and quantifiable precision. That was the essence of my revenge. I took a deep breath. The years of striving for approval were over. The era of my undisputed self-determination had begun. This peace was the final, lasting victory. I walked through my duplex. Every corner reflected my careful determination. This asset was more than bricks and mortar, it was the physical proof of my vindication. The memory of the pain didn't sting anymore. I showed them that true power isn't inherited, it's earned. My financial skill was the weapon, and my precision was the shield. A lifetime of hard work paid off. Did I regret the years of distance and the sharp lines drawn? No. Those lines secured my peace and guaranteed my future solvency. They were necessary boundaries. My vindication was complete, spanning from the small mock check to the trust managing their entire legacy. The circle was closed with professional precision and quiet joy. I checked my travel plans. A business trip was approaching, a challenge defined by markets, not emotional dynamics. The new life was a life of pure self-determination. My quiet revenge had not just ended their control, it had started my true life. I stood by the window, the successful analyst, the keeper of my own legacy. My self-worth was finally absolute, resting solely on the strength of my own determination and skill. I often look back, not with pain, but with the cool detachment of an analyst. The strategy was defined by precision: identify the weakness, complexity, quantify the risk, solvency, and insert the solution, the trust, under terms of absolute self-determination. My parents' greatest weakness was their inherited entitlement. That pretense was the Achilles heel. My weapon was my skill and my years of quiet determination. That mock check, the symbol of their rejection, was the most valuable document of all. It was the moment I chose self-determination over seeking their conditional approval. I don't regret the no bailout clause for Chelsea. Conditional love and constant rescues would have been another betrayal. Mom's final, silent acknowledgement was her deepest humbling. She realized her emotional dynamics were irrelevant to financial precision. The trust isn't just a legal document, it's a monument to my peace. They taught me that an asset isn't inherited property, it's something you build. The greatest liberation was realizing I no longer needed their love. My quiet joy is the sound of the world outside my window. I achieved my goal. I forced them to acknowledge my worth. More importantly, I forced myself to acknowledge it. The sharp lines, the professional distance, the final boundaries, they weren't spiteful. They were the precision required to maintain the peace. The chapter on revenge is closed. What remains is a quiet, powerful closure. Every step was calculated. Perfect precision from start to finish. I didn't save their legacy for them, I saved it to redefine it. The new Blake legacy is not entitlement, it is the power of determination and skill. The ultimate triumph of my vindication was ensuring that the very structure they used to reject me became the one thing that forced them to depend on me. That is true, cold, beautiful power. There is no room for lingering pain. I look at my duplex. It is the monument built to spite entitlement. I had chosen peace and then enforced it with legal and financial power. The final result, a life of absolute self-determination and quiet, undisputed joy. The end of the Blake family dynamics. My story is now a closed ledger, sealed with the undeniable precision of financial and emotional solvency. I traded complexity for absolute peace. But as the credits roll on the Blake family dynamics, what is the single most important asset? The one built by your own determination and skill, that you will commit to building today to ensure your own future vindication and enduring power. The past was settled. My focus shifted entirely to the future. My professional life, built on precision, was expanding. I checked my wallet. This was my true asset, a symbol of my absolute, self-made solvency. My life had zero reliance on unearned entitlement. The power was entirely in my hands, secured by my own skill. The trust report was on my desk, a reminder that their legacy was safe. I had bought them peace at the price of their pretense. The memory of their betrayal and rejection was no longer a fresh pain. It was fuel, not an anchor. An email from Chelsea popped up. She was truly building her future, step by logical precision step. My ultimate vindication wasn't saving the house. It was realizing I didn't need their approval or their love to be whole. The family legacy was now a legal concept, not an emotional burden. My true legacy was my duplex, my investments. The boundaries were firm, maintained with professional precision. They ensured that the peace I had fought for was not temporary, but a permanent feature. My new challenges lay not in family drama, but in corporate finance. That shift in focus was the ultimate measure of my determination. I locked the door to the duplex, the command center for my self-determination. Driving to the airport. My car, though modest, represented genuine, sustainable power. My mind was already calculating currency risks. The small world of their complexity was far, far behind me. The greatest outcome was the end of the drama. Every single decision I made was rooted in determination. Walking through security, I felt the confidence. No hidden complexity, no looming betrayal. Their formal acknowledgement of my skill was necessary, but my self-acknowledgement was the prize. The chains of conditional approval were broken. I was free of their emotional dynamics. Sitting at the gate, I looked at the flight board. The future was vast, exciting, and entirely within the boundaries of my self-determination. My ultimate triumph was turning a story of rejection into one of absolute solvency. My legacy is not an old house, it's the financial skill I possess and the unbreakable determination that backs it. I smiled, a genuine, quiet smile. That is the final, enduring peace. The flight is boarding. My vindication is complete, my solvency is absolute, and my self-determination is unshakable. The saga of the Blake family dynamics is officially over. But as I step onto this plane and head toward the future I built, I ask you, what single asset, be it financial precision or inner determination, will you refuse to compromise on to secure your own destiny and claim your absolute peace? My journey is over. The quiet revenge is complete. But my story isn't just about family drama, it's a masterclass in financial precision and emotional self-determination. Now, let's talk about you. My first, most crucial lesson: your greatest asset is not inherited, it's built. The duplex wasn't just bricks, it was the physical proof of my determination. What concrete step are you taking today to build yours? My second lesson: replace emotional complexity with analytical precision. Emotion is debt. Logic is your highest yielding asset. Use your skill to quantify risk, not your pain to react to it. My third lesson: embrace rejection as the ultimate catalyst for self-determination and vindication. My parents' rejection wasn't a closing door, it was a detonation button for my success. Do not seek love where you should be seeking self-determination. My fourth lesson: set boundaries with determination and professional distance to secure your peace. The new family dynamics only work because of the hard line I drew. Your peace is an asset that must be aggressively defended. Never let anyone's entitlement violate your boundaries. My fifth and final lesson: your true legacy is not what you inherit, but the skill and power you leave behind. Build a legacy defined by solvency and quantifiable determination. The new one, secured by the trust, is built on my precision and hard-won power. This is the greatest acknowledgement you can ever give yourself.